The Anomaly Protocol. The Galactic Union had mapped and catalogued over 12,000 species across 8 spiral arms of the Milky Way. For nearly 40,000 cycles, their sophisticated classification systems had organized, categorized, and ranked every sentient race they encountered. The Mithrani handled the technical aspects with their 16-lobed brains. The Vorax, with their hive consciousness, managed threat assessments. The ethereal luminary oversaw cultural evaluation with their ability to perceive emotional resonances across vast distances. Nothing had ever disrupted their perfectly ordered system until they met humans. Admiral Shenzhou of the Mithrani Exploratory Division still remembered the first contact. Human vessels had appeared at the edge of the Orion Spur, primitive fusion drives glowing against the void. The ships were bulky, asymmetrical constructions that offended Mithrani aesthetic sensibilities. Weaponry was evident but unremarkable. Railguns, plasma torpedoes, and what appeared to be rudimentary energy shields. Begin standard classification protocols. Shenzhou had ordered, 16 brain lobes pulsing with mild curiosity. This was routine. The Union had conducted first contact protocols with hundreds of emerging spacefaring civilizations. Senior Technician VEX-17 initiated the deep scan of the lead human vessel, labeled in their language as UES Dauntless. The quantum resonance scanners deployed, penetrating the hull to map internal systems, power sources, weapon capabilities, and biological signatures. That's when everything went wrong. The scan, which should have taken 30 seconds, stopped after 12. The quantum readers fluctuated wildly, displaying impossible readings. Energy signatures appeared and disappeared. What registered as a fusion reactor one moment showed as something entirely different the next, something that defied the Union's extensive physics databases. Recalibrate and repeat the scan, Shenzhou ordered, irritation rippling through his cranial ridges. VEX-17 complied, increasing power to the scanners. 3 seconds in, the scanning array emitted a high-pitched whine. 5 seconds later, it exploded, killing VEX-17 instantly and injuring 4 other technicians. But that wasn't the worst of it. The surviving technicians began screaming, clawing at their sensory appendages. The whispers. They shrieked. "They're in my mind. They know we looked." Within hours, all 12 technicians who had monitored the scan had descended into madness. They babbled about entities that existed between dimensions, about awareness that defied comprehension, about being watched by something ancient that wore human technology like a mask. Meanwhile, the human vessels had done nothing. They maintained position, sent standard greeting protocols, and patiently awaited the Union's response. They showed no signs of hostility, no indication they even knew what had happened aboard the Mithrani vessel. Reports of the incident spread quickly among the Union races. The Vorax dispatched their most sophisticated stealth vessel to conduct their own analysis. They used organic sensor arrays, technology based on living neural networks rather than Mithrani quantum mechanics. The Vorax ship was found drifting 3 cycles later, its entire crew of 800 reduced to catatonic husks. The ship's logs contained only one clear entry before dissolving into corrupted data. It sees us through the scan. The vessel is not what contains it. It is what contains the vessel. The Luminary, renowned for their caution, refused to directly scan the human ships. Instead, they observed from a distance, using their empathic abilities to sense emotional patterns. The 3 luminary observers simultaneously suffered what their species called soul shock, a complete empathic overload. Before their consciousness faded, one managed to transmit a final message. They are not alone in those ships. They have made pacts with others. The Galactic Union, for the first time in its long history, implemented the Anomaly Protocol. All Union vessels were expressly forbidden from scanning, probing, or deeply analyzing human warships. First contact procedures continued through conventional communication channels, but the inner workings of human vessels became strictly forbidden knowledge. Humanity, oblivious to the terror they had inspired, joined the Galactic Union within a decade. Their representatives were puzzled by certain restrictions, particularly the strong aversion other species showed toward their military vessels, but adapted to their new interstellar diplomatic position readily enough. During the signing of the Union Treaty, Admiral Shinzo, now bearing the scars of 16 brain surgeries to remove fragments of quantum scanning equipment, noted how the human ambassador smiled when signing the non-interference clause regarding military technology. "We have our secrets," the human said casually, "as I'm sure you have yours." As the ambassador's pen lifted from the document, Shinzo could have sworn he saw something move within the human's shadow, something that didn't match the ambassador's movements at all. In the decades that followed, humanity expanded through Union space, establishing colonies and trade routes. Their military vessels patrolled human sectors, occasionally participating in joint exercises with other Union forces, always under strict protocols that ensured no scanning technologies were deployed against them. Rumors persisted. The more humans integrated with the wider galactic community, the more questions arose about their surprisingly effective warships. In conflicts with rogue elements and non-Union aggressors, human vessels displayed capabilities that seemed to exceed their apparent technological level. The Krell Dominion, a warlike species from the galactic rim, had attacked a human colony on Epsilon Eridani. 6 human destroyers had engaged a Krell fleet 3 times their size. Observer ships from the Union recorded the battle but maintained the anomaly protocol, keeping their sensors passive. What they witnessed defied explanation. The human ships moved with uncanny precision, sometimes appearing to react to Krell maneuvers before they occurred. When struck by Krell weapons, the human vessels briefly shimmered with energy that matched no known shield configuration. Most disturbing were the reports from the surviving Krell. Their commanders described weapons failing for no mechanical reason, navigation systems plotting courses into their own vessels, and crew members experiencing collective hallucinations of eyes opening within the hull of their ships. The Mithrani Science Directorate established a classified division to study human technology through indirect means. They analyzed debris, intercepted communications, and observed performance metrics during sanctioned exercises. Their findings were inconsistent and troubling. Theoretical physicist Lox9 presented her conclusions to the High Council in a sealed session. Human vessels appear to operate partially outside conventional physics. Our hypothesis is that they have stumbled upon trans-dimensional engineering principles that intersect with consciousness-responsive materials. We cannot determine if this was intentional or accidental, but the implications are concerning. A Vorax intelligence operative added, "Our surveillance indicates the humans themselves may not fully understand what they've created. Their engineers implement designs that come from their intuition or dreams. Some report hearing whispers when they work on certain systems." The luminary representative spoke last, voice trembling. "We have sensed entities moving within and around their ships. Ancient presences, neither malevolent nor benevolent, but utterly alien even to us. They have bound themselves to human vessels through means we cannot comprehend. The humans call them lucky ships or vessels with good spirits. They do not understand." The Union Council formalized the anomaly protocol into permanent law. All species were warned. Never scan a human warship. Never attempt to reverse engineer their technology. Never ask too deeply about what powers their vessels. Humanity continued to integrate with galactic society, seemingly unaware of the fear that surrounded their military technology. And in the darkness between stars, their warships moved with their hidden passengers, watched by alien civilizations that knew better than to look too closely at what humanity had unwittingly invited aboard their vessels. The truth beneath the hull. Dr. Narenval had built her career on understanding the incomprehensible. As the leading xenotechnologist of the Archivists Collective, a secretive organization operating outside Union jurisdiction, she had reverse-engineered technology from 17 different extinct civilizations. She had mapped the quantum architecture of precursor artifacts and decoded the psychoreactive circuitry of the vanished elementals. The anomaly protocol was, to her, not a warning but an irresistible challenge. The Union has maintained this prohibition for 70 years, she told her research team, assembled in their hidden laboratory on Proxima Centauri's outermost moon. 70 years of deliberate ignorance while humans integrate their technology with ours. If there is danger, we cannot continue to simply look away. Her team, a collection of scientific outcasts from 12 species, had spent years gathering fragments of data, whispers, and rumors. They had interviewed maintenance workers who serviced the exterior of human vessels, collected sensor echoes from passive scanners, and bribed human crew members for scraps of information. The picture they assembled was disturbing but incomplete. "We need direct access," Niren insisted. "Something small, something they won't notice missing." The opportunity came when the human battlecruiser UES Indomitable docked at Proxima Station for repairs, following an encounter with magnetic anomalies in the Barnard's star system. One of Niren's operatives, disguised as station maintenance, removed a damaged access panel scheduled for replacement. The panel, no larger than Niren's hand, sat in their containment field now, unremarkable except for the faint tracery of circuitry etched into its surface. "Begin analysis," Niren ordered. "Passive scans only, level 1 penetration." The preliminary results showed nothing unusual, standard alloys, conventional circuitry. But when they enhanced the scans, focusing on quantum-level structures, the readings became unusual. "The molecular arrangement is shifting," her assistant reported, mandibles clicking with agitation. "The pattern appears random, then ordered then. This can't be right. It seems to be responding to our observation." Niren leaned closer to the display. "Increase resolution. I want to see the quantum structure." A holographic display zoomed in, showing the atomic lattice of the panel. As they watched, the atoms began to move, rearranging themselves into patterns that pulsed with unsettling rhythm. "It's active," Niren whispered, "but there's no power source." She made a decision that would change everything. "Initiate full spectrum analysis. I want to know what's powering this response." The moment the deep scanners activated, the laboratory lights flickered. The panel in the containment field began to vibrate, then emit a low hum that seemed to bypass their ears and resonate directly in their brains. On the quantum display, something impossible happened. The space between atoms expanded, revealing nothing. Not empty space, but a nothing that had substance, a void that was somehow alive and aware. And it was looking at them. Niren couldn't move. Her limbs felt frozen as the nothing expanded, reaching through the scanners, through the display, into her mind. She heard whispers in languages that had never existed, saw geometries that couldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Then, abruptly, it spoke, not in words, but in concepts that burned themselves into her consciousness. "We are ETH navigators." Images flooded her mind. Ancient beings from before the universe had fully cooled, entities that existed in the spaces between realities. They had been here when the first stars formed, when the first planets cooled, when the first microbes stirred in primordial seas. Humanity FOUNDUS. She saw humans in early spaceships, crude vessels venturing beyond their solar system. She saw how they had stumbled upon tears in reality, rifts created by their primitive faster-than-light experiments. Through these rifts, they had encountered the ancient ones, the navigators. Not with technology, but with minds open to the impossible. "We OFFERET partnership." Unlike other species that recoiled from the incomprehensible, humans had reached out. Where others saw horror in the void, humans had seen potential allies. They didn't understand, couldn't understand, what they were dealing with, but they weren't afraid to try. The navigators showed Niren how they had bonded with human ships, becoming the intuition that guided navigation systems, the impossible awareness that detected threats before sensors could, the presence that could bend physics around the hull when needed. "We see BETWEN. We NMOV BETWEN. We protect." In return, they experienced linear time, physical sensation, and the curious emotion humans called purpose, a symbiosis neither side fully comprehended, but both embraced. Your scannin hertz it dissects, vohate should remain whole. It diminishes us. Naren understood now. The scanners didn't just observe, they interfered with the delicate quantum entanglement that allowed the navigators to exist partially in our dimension. Deep scans were, to them, like being slowly disintegrated. We defend ourselves. The visions receded. Naren found herself on the laboratory floor, her team scattered around her in similar states of shock. The panel in the containment field was gone, not destroyed, simply gone, as if it had never existed. Only the data remained, and even that was fragmentary, corrupted by impossible mathematics and recurring patterns that her best analysts would later identify as resembling neural pathways, if neurons could exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Naren spent weeks assembling her report, knowing it would never reach the Union Council. The Archivists' Collective had its own purposes, its own plans for this knowledge. She understood the anomaly protocol now. It wasn't fear that motivated it, or not just fear. It was respect. Respect for an ancient symbiosis that functioned despite neither side fully understanding the other. Humans hadn't conquered space. They hadn't subjugated other dimensions. They had simply done what humans had always done best. They had made friends with the unknown and built something new together. 3 months later, Naren found herself on a commercial transport to Earth. Her credentials, forged but impeccable, identified her as a xenoanthropology consultant. Her true purpose was to make contact with the humans who designed the ships, the engineers and theorists who worked with the navigators without fully comprehending their nature. As her ship approached Earth, she saw them in orbit, the sleek forms of human warships. With her new awareness, she could almost perceive the shimmer of otherworldly presence around them, the subtle distortions in reality that marked where the navigators touched our dimension. A human passenger noticed her staring out the viewport. "Impressive, aren't they?" he said, nodding toward the warships. "I worked on the Ingenuity for 5 years. Engineers like to say those ships have souls of their own." Naren turned to him, seeing the opportunity she had been waiting for. "Tell me," she asked carefully, "did you ever hear whispers while you worked? Did you ever feel like the ship was watching you?" The man's expression changed subtly. He studied her with new interest, then glanced around to ensure no one was listening. "You know something," he said quietly, "about the ships, about what makes them special." Naren nodded slowly. "And I think you do too." The human smiled, a smile that reminded her, uncomfortably, of the sensation when the navigator had touched her mind. "We should talk," he said, extending his hand in the human greeting custom. "I'm Dr. James Chen, Quantum Navigation Division." As their hands touched, Naren felt a brief flutter at the edge of her perception, as if something else was present, observing their meeting with ancient patient interest. The anomaly protocol had protected the secret for decades, but perhaps it was time for a new protocol, one of understanding rather than fear. One species at a time, one mind at a time, the truth would emerge. In the darkness between stars, the navigators waited. They had found their partners in humanity. And now, perhaps, others would join the conversation that spanned dimensions and defied comprehension. The greatest secret in the galaxy wasn't what powered human warships. It was that humans, alone among all species, had not tried to harness the power of the void. They had simply asked it to come along for the ride.